Hello, this is Catherine Marie, and you are listening to Long COVID Real Talk podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about apparently how gullible I am and whether or not becoming disabled made me more likely to fall into a little bit of a trap. But I guess, you can decide and let me know. It started out where I was in a group on Facebook that was having difficulty with Riverside. And Riverside is the recording platform that I make my episodes on. It used to be Anchor, and Anchor worked really well, and Riverside does not work very well. So there are a lot of people that have trouble with it. And this person reached out to me through the messaging part of Facebook. We were in the same group, and he asked if I wanted my podcast to be promoted. And I said, yeah, because I had been thinking about how one of the moms and dads that are friends with my little one, they had expressed interest in the podcast and said they couldn't find it. So it made me realize that unless I sent someone the link specifically, it was difficult to find. And therefore, I needed to work on search engine optimization, or SEO. And this was a person who was from a different country in Asia and promised to do a really great job promoting my podcast. And he does work through Upwork. I paid for the $10 3-day trial so that I could see what he would do, because that was the option that he had, was a trial period of 3 days for $10. And he did really good work. I think my followers tripled in 3 days, and the number of plays or downloads was really high as well. So I was still not sure whether I really wanted to pay for a whole month of promotion. So he said, oh, well, why don't you just do the $10 again for the 3 days? So I did 3 more days, and he did just as good of a job as the first 3 days. And I talked to my husband about it, and I really believe that the podcast has helped some people with long COVID. Not everybody necessarily that listens to it. I don't think it's necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but I feel like doing things so that it comes up in people's searches when they are searching for a podcast about long COVID, that if this came up for them in the search, that it would help them feel better and at least feel like they weren't alone. So it was something that I really wanted to do. And after I paid for the month, the podcast promotion continued to improve, and the work was great. And he started talking to me, and it was really fun. And he was telling me about his life, in the country where he lives. And after a while, and it was exciting, and it was fun watching all of my statistics skyrocket for the podcast. And then at one point, he was talking about how he wants to come to the United States. and that he just needs someone to sponsor him. And I said, well, what does that entail? And he said, you have to sign some sort of form that says that you are financially responsible for somebody while they're starting out here. And he said, you know that I'm a really hard worker and, all this stuff. And I was just kind of taken aback that we're 2 weeks into a month-long um, contract. But I don't know. I just thought, oh, he must think I'm like really nice or, whatever. And I also was thinking, well, if I was from his country and he was from the United States and I wanted to go to the United States, I would want someone from the United States to consider helping me come to the United States. And, if I wanted that, shouldn't I be willing to help someone who wants to come here? And I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, well, why don't we just table that for 6 months or so? And I said, okay. So I told the person that, and he said, okay. And then he started talking about his YouTube channel and how he just needs an iPhone to be able to record things and to have a really good YouTube channel. And that this had been his dream and that he hadn't made enough money to buy an iPhone because they're so expensive in his country. And at the time I was thinking, well, he's doing such a great job with my podcast. I had no intention of not hiring him for future months. So I said, well, I could just purchase a phone for you and send it to you. And I could just pay for customs or whatever. And we could put that money towards um, future podcast promotion. And he said, oh, that would be so great. So we go through and mind you, I have long COVID, right? So this day that I was trying to help this person realize their dream of having a YouTube channel, I was excited and I overdid it and I crashed. And while I was crashed, he messaged me and said, oh, actually, I found out that the customs is too much money on this end. So I think what you should do is you should just send me the money and then I will purchase it here. And as soon as he wrote that, I was just thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I fell for this. And I just said, well, if you don't want the phone, I will return it, but I'm not going to be sending money to you. And then he immediately was like, oh, wait, are you mad? Oh, and it was like, it was so surprising to me how emotional and how this person wormed their way into my life and like my heart even, because I truly thought that they just needed help and they just needed someone to help them. And I was so happy to try to help in the little way that I could. And, being disabled, you feel so limited and like you can't help anyone. You can barely take care of yourself. So when given the opportunity to help another human being, it's really, what's the word? It's just really tempting. It's very alluring to think that you can help somebody, even in a state where you're disabled. So anyway, he starts messaging me over and over and over, and I'm just thinking, oh God, I just want this to be over. And the phone, which I'd already purchased, arrived, and the AirPods that I was going to send him as well arrived. So I went through the process of returning everything, and the phone that I purchased, it was used, but it was still really expensive. And I bought it on Swappa, which I'd never used before. But apparently with Swappa, it does not assume that they will have a return policy. So I reached out to the seller and I said, hey, I'm really sorry. I feel like such an idiot, but the person who I purchased the phone for no longer wants the phone. And I said, I'm happy to pay for return shipping and a restocking fee. And the person who sold me the phone came up with something that was over $100. I believe it was $150, something to that effect, of what I would not receive from my original amount that I paid him if I returned the phone. And he had all these little things, like a list of things as to why. And I mailed the phone back, and it was over $70 to mail it back because he wanted $1,000 insurance, whatever on it. And this whole time I'm just thinking, what the did I get myself into? Like what? Like, I'm a really smart person. I don't usually fall for these things. What the hell am I doing? And I'm so embarrassed that this happened. I It's bothered me so much for the last couple of weeks, and I've debated as to whether or not to make an episode on it because just like everything else I share, it's not easy to share a lot of the stuff that I share, but it's just, I feel like allowing yourself to be vulnerable when there are a lot of people and there are a lot of lives at stake, a lot of quality of lives at stake, that, you know, I don't know, like I could be dead and who cares then what anyone thinks of me, right? So I just, I don't know, I guess I figured it would help me to process this and tell the whole story. And then maybe if someone else got conned or someone else had some sort of similar feeling that they were going through, or they got sucked into helping somebody because they were trying to feel like they could still have the ability to help people, even though they're disabled now. So I've been trying to avoid this person, but I already sent him my resume and CV, not my social security number or anything like that, but still my resume and my CV. I thought, God, why did I do that? I was thinking this was a business relationship, and I thought, oh, well, he's, in the Riverside Facebook group and he's a podcast promoter, so he must be legit. And I don't know. I just feel like a complete idiot. So tonight I received the notice from Upwork that that he's finished the month and he wanted the approval so that he could get paid because the money's been in escrow, like through Upwork or whatever. So I said, yep, because he has done a good job with podcast promotion. And I just feel like I've been such a fool to get sucked into all the other stuff. And I don't know. He was telling me about his wife and his baby, and I just got so sucked into it. And it was so exciting and fun to talk to somebody from somewhere else in the world and see the world through their eyes and, listen to what their day is like. And it was just really cool. And it was all messaging. So it was whenever I wanted to message, and it didn't have to be for a long time. So it was like the perfect setup for me to be able to communicate with somebody, because when someone wants to call, it can be too much. Even Marco Polo, sometimes I can't watch the whole Marco Polo. Marco Polo is a video app where you leave videos for your friends and then they listen and then they leave a video back, which is nice because then you get to see their face when they're talking to you. But I am so easily overwhelmed by phone calls and Marco Polo messages, and definitely overwhelmed by being with people in person a lot of times. I'm good for a while and then I just suddenly am not good. Or, which is worse in a way, I'll feel great when I'm talking to somebody and then I will crash so hard afterwards. And there will be no notice or warning sign that I um, am going to crash. So, so the end of the story is that the contract was completed tonight. I thanked him for his work. I gave him a bonus because Upwork asks you if you want to give a bonus, or like a tip or whatever, based on how much the original contract was worth. And I tried to just end it nicely because I don't want him to do anything to mess up the podcast or my life. So I just feel really dumb, and hopefully this will be the end of it. And hopefully, I don't know, either this will prevent people from being conned, or I don't know. Hopefully there will be some good that comes out of it somehow. But I definitely am feeling pretty down about it because I was really enjoying talking to the person. And when everything got kind of strange, I was surprised because they had seemed really normal and they were just really fun to talk to. So, you know, that sucks. Anyway, so I need to find something else to get excited about and look forward to. So I've been trying to book more guests for the show, and I look forward to having them on. And each one I feel like has been really, really great. And I've enjoyed talking to each person. So, and I think I'm going to take a break from any podcast promotion or anything like that and just allow it to grow organically. And if it doesn't grow, then that's fine. Then it wasn't meant to grow, you know? I feel like I accidentally started to believe that I was more important than I really am, or that the podcast was more important than it really is. It's it's great. It's great to have, but it's just a podcast, it's not like changing lives or anything like that. So I just need to be humble and not try to save the world. And it's always been a problem that I've had even before I was disabled. So I will just have to keep working on that. So I think that's all for now. If I continue on, I'm just going to ramble. So I think that's it for today. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk again real soon. Okay, take care. Bye.